I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
It makes you think that at a fundamental level, this is sort of a he said, she said, right? And at the end of the day, do you believe Donald Trump, who always tells the truth? Just kidding. Or do you believe that woman on that tape?
No, I cannot stand Trump because I think he's a fraud. Well, I think he's a total fraud that is exploiting these people, who is a total fraud.
Like I said, I agree with you on Trump because I don't think that he's the person. I don't think he actually cares about folks.
So J.D. Vance is out here pretending to be America's moral compass. But this week, he couldn't find North if it was tattooed on a Chick-fil-A wrapper. You know, this guy went from writing Hillbilly Elegy, the book about escaping poverty, to becoming the vice president of the very system he said was broken. It's like writing a diet book and then opening an all-you-can-eat buffet. He flew to Europe for the Munich Security Conference, gave this speech about how Europe is afraid of its voters, which is hilarious because back home, he's afraid of his own.
Vice President Maybelline was making the rounds, attempting to defend his boss and the chairman of the FCC with a new fairy tale even a 5-year-old wouldn't believe.
Celebrities are rallying to his cause, saying this is a First Amendment assault being carried out by the FCC, Brendan Carr, and by the President of the United States himself. And to that, you say?
Well, there are two things. First of all, I'd like them to tell me exactly what Brendan Carr did to have Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air, because number one, he is currently on the air, and to the extent that he isn't in certain stations, it's because he's not funny and because his ratings aren't very good.
I have some good news for you, J-Dog. We're back on all the stations.
Seats are still being occupied by the audience. Jimmy Kimmel walks out with a "I already know the punchline" grin as the music fades. He looks into the lens, taps the cards on his desk, and declares that he has returned to every station. The space blows up. That's how a rumor dies. Then he turns around, focuses on J.D. Vance, and unleashes a moniker so exact it could be used as a product label. Maybelline, Vice President.
He acts like he's out there defending the working class, but the second Trump frowns, J.D. changes his entire belief system faster than a Tesla stock price. And remember, this is the same J.D. Vance who once called Trump America's moral disaster. He literally said Trump was cultural heroin. Then he met him, and now he's his dealer. He's out there pushing the same stuff he used to warn people about.
There is definitely an element of Donald Trump's support that has its basis in racism or xenophobia. I think there's a chance, if I feel like Trump has a really good chance of winning, that I might have to hold my nose and vote for Hillary Clinton. I think that I'm going to vote third party because I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place.
It strikes in a way that can only be achieved by a sentence that both reveals conceit and insecurity. A communications man knocks over his coffee somewhere. Somewhere else, a senator furiously types a reply while feigning not to hear the joke. Additionally, the 47th president's favorite wingman becomes the punchline while pretending that ratings are the issue in the broadcasts. This was a 3-step dance. So let's follow how we arrived at the eruption. First step. J.D. Vance visited Friendly Studios just prior to Brooklyn Week and said that Kimmel's temporary absence was due to poor ratings.
I mean to interrupt your bullshit. Go on.
There's something else that's important here, Laura, which is that these broadcast companies, ABC, NBC, CBS, they enjoy the public airwaves because they serve the public interest. So I actually think that we should be having a conversation about whether these companies are serving the public interest. That's actually totally separate from the Jimmy Kimmel issue because nothing happened to him. He's currently on the air, and to the extent that he's not, it's because advertisers don't like him because his ratings aren't very good.
My ratings aren't very good. Last time I checked, your ratings were somewhere between a hair in your salad and chlamydia. In 3.5 years, I'm not the one who's going to be doing mascara tutorials on YouTube.
He spent part of his week warning Americans that dating apps are more destructive than artificial intelligence. Really? AI is writing your speeches, buddy. You're worried about Tinder when the robots are learning how to lie better than you? He says online dating is tearing apart traditional families. The guy works for a man who has 3 marriages and 5 kids who all look like they share one Wi-Fi password. You want to lecture America about stable homes? You work for the Trump family, not the Brady Bunch.
He demanded an apology to those he claimed Kimmel had defamed. Perfect setup, straight face, big talk. Step 2. Kimmel returns with the lights. More intense than before. After informing America that he has returned to every station, he enters Vance with a cosmetic counter haymaker. Vice President Maybelline, permanent, one-line sticker. In the third step, Vance seeks to put pressure on Fox by saying that the joke demonstrates the point and demanding apology. It's not control. That is a suit-wearing tantrum. And the story is the tantrum.
How did we wind up with a president and a vice president who wear more makeup than Kylie Jenner and Lady Gaga combined? A lot of pressure on J.D. Vance tonight. J.D. Vance hasn't been under a microscope like this since his wife asked him why the couch was so sticky. But Trump had good advice. He told him, just have fun. And you know what? It seems like he did.
I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are.
That's how you get the single cat ladies back on your side. You know, in some ways, you can't help but you kind of feel sympathy for J.D. Vance having to defend Donald Trump, who he himself openly denounced. It's kind of like being Diddy's defense attorney, you know?
This is the reason Kimmel's line disintegrated so neatly. It was more than a disc. In 4 words, it mapped the entire aesthetic. The urge to seem camera-ready, the brand devotion, and the performative toughness, even when the makeup is a mess. The moniker struck like a mirror. The mirror was visible as it twitched. You could sense the audience making the connection when Kimmel continued with the mascara lesson crack. This isn't the policy. It's packing. Additionally, beneath the stage lights, the packaging is cracking.
JD talks about family values while backing a president who spends more time golfing than parenting. He says men need to reclaim masculinity. Yeah, by all means, tell that to your boss, the man whose spray tan wipes off on the American flag. He's made himself the mascot of the forgotten working class, except the only thing he remembers is which billionaire is writing the campaign check this week. Every photo op he does has him in a barn wearing flannel, talking about coal jobs, while the fine print says, made possible by Peter Thiel. The man's political soul is sponsored content.
Kimmel seldom receives recognition for his nasty little superpower. He can land a punch without ever shouting. He reads the quotation. One more sentence is added by him. He lets quiet take care of the rest. For humor, it's slow cooking. Because of this, whereas other hosts' outbursts fade by lunch, his clapbacks endure. He allowed Vance's spin to be in the air long enough for the room to smell the components this evening. Hurt feelings, cancel culture, and poor ratings all masquerade as high principle. He didn't debate. He made a count. Back in Brooklyn, back on all the stations, back in front of what sounded like a playoff basketball crowd.
In fact, both candidates were pretty darn polite to each other.
First of all, Tim just said something that I agree with. I agree. And I actually think I agree with you. I actually agree with Tim Walz.
I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said.
Governor, I agree with you.
I agree with that.
And I think that Governor Walz and I actually probably agreed.
Well, Trump is not going to like that at all. You're in a lot of trouble, JD. I was kind of hoping they'd ask the candidates like, some fun questions. Like, you know, they used to do that. Like, is a hot dog a sandwich? And then J.D. Vance would stare into the camera and say, when you're from Haiti, any dog can be a sandwich. But they didn't. They could have used a lot more talk about cats and dog eating.
And every time he opens his mouth about culture, it's a new episode of Things Nobody Asked. One week it's dating apps, the next it's birth control, the next it's women being too career-focused. He's like the cranky uncle at Thanksgiving who thinks feminism is a weather pattern. Then there's his big claim that America's in moral decline because people don't go to church enough. You know what else causes moral decline? Electing a guy who tried to overthrow democracy. But sure, tell me more about how Bumble is ruining society. He says he wants to stand up to global elites. Really? You flew to Munich in a private jet to say that, buddy? That's like yelling down with yachts from the deck of your own. J.D. Vance is what happens when populism goes to finishing school.
That dude isn't trying to hide from Nielsen. That man is creating a highlight reel out of a successful career. What caused J.D. Vance to erupt, then? Because he was placed in a suitable box. Being given a moniker that your opponents will use indefinitely and your supporters will secretly detest because it's hilarious is not enjoyable. A paragraph can be debated. A sticker cannot be debated. After placing it on his forehead, Kimmel continued to move. The oldest late-night trick is this one. A target should be tagged with something distinct, short enough to travel, and true enough to sting.
Last night he posted an announcement. He said, I will be doing a personal play-by-play of the debate tomorrow between the brilliant J.D. Vance and the highly inarticulate tampon Tim Walz. I hope that cognitively challenged lion Kamala Harris will be listening so that she can again show the world how she will make up false facts and stories. I will be commenting on what is going on. Watch Truth Social tomorrow night. Watch Truth Social.
He wants to be seen as the people's champion, but he speaks like he's auditioning to narrate a documentary called The Death of Irony. And let's not forget, when the shutdown hit, he was silent while millions of Americans were wondering if they'd get food stamps. He didn't fight for them. He was too busy tweeting about real patriots and woke tech overlords. You know who cares about SNAP benefits? The people you wrote about in your book, JD, remember them? The ones who can't afford your lecture tour tickets?
The rest is done by the internet. The problem with Maybelline is that, after hearing it once, your brain instantly provides the bottle the next time Vance tries the scowl while leaning into a camera. This also serves as a timing lesson. In the window where the rumor mill insisted Kimmel was finished, Vance apologized to her. When you believe your opponent is off the air, it can be tempting to dunk. Kimmel gave a live, forceful, and precisely measured reaction. We have returned to every station. Just a statement that made the canceled story look like a balloon in a cactus garden, without any boasting or victory dance.
Every time he gets on stage, he tries to sound tough. He says things like, "We're fighting for real Americans." Yeah, the real Americans who live in his imagination, the ones who still think the earth is flat and vaccines are witchcraft. J.D. Vance wants you to believe he's the next great conservative thinker, but he's really just Trump with a library card. He's got all the bluster, half the charisma, and none of the self-awareness. You can tell he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, but the only reason he looks that way is because the rest of his party keeps setting the bar underground. Look, JD, I'll give you credit. It's not easy to sell out your own book.
After that, he turned to Vance and completed the task. The following morning, I nearly felt sorry for whatever booker had named JD. Nearly. This incident also stood out because Kimmel included it into a larger argument regarding the actions of the 47th president and his inner entourage. They declare the item they dislike to be unlawful. Satire, they say, is censorship. While the video receives 1 million views in an afternoon, they claim poor ratings. More often than not, they post about late nights rather than governance. The foundation of this worldview is fake and loudness.
So on the biggest night of J.D. Vance's career, his running mate, he's telling his followers, watch me on Truth Social commenting on it. And here is some video of Mar-a-Lago watching tonight from home.
Now, the person closest to them, Donald Trump, said he's unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of
I like what he's done with his bathroom.
Kimmel uses 2 non-blinking methods to undermine it: rhythm and receipts. He rolls the quotation. He affixes the tag. He continues to breathe. He believes that the audience will complete the paragraph. Because it works, it drives them insane. Since the reaction is the tell, let's discuss it. Vance would have disregarded the term if it hadn't caught on. Rather, he immediately returned to friendly territory, demanding an apology and redefining the exchange as bullying. That isn't stoicism. It's a flinch. And flinching on camera is the quickest way to make a joke memorable. Kimmel was aware.
Hi, I'm Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. The mainstream media, They want you to think that I'm weird. They call me creepy, cringy, awkward, that I give people something called the ick. They want you to think that I can't order a simple donut. But that's ridiculous. Follow me. Hello?
Hi.
Okay. How long you worked here?
A year?
Okay. Donut.